All right, so I'm going to go over some problems on page 138 to just review solving by substitution. So we're on page 138, which is your assignment. So there is some good steps at the top for you to refer to when solving using substitution. So remember, solve one of the equations for x or y. So remember, that means that one of the equations needs to say x equals or y equals, not both, just one of the equations. And then once we have that, we'll substitute that expression into the other equation and solve for the variable. Once you've solved for one of the variables, plug the solution into one of the original equations and solve for the other variable. And then you can check your answers and seeing if they both hold true. So I'll do a couple examples just to kind of review. So the first three are really nice because the top equation actually gives you one of your solutions, right? This tells me that x equals 5. So I already know what x is in this equation. I just need to solve for y. So remember, the first step is always to have an x equals or a y equals. So we already have that in the first equation. So that means in the second equation, in place of x, I'm going to replace it with what it equals. So instead of x plus y equals 12, I know that x is 5. So I'm going to make this 5 plus y equals 12. And now I've made an equation that only has one variable in it, and I can solve for that variable. So now the goal here is to get y by itself. So to get y by itself, I want to move that positive 5 to the other side. So I would subtract 5 from both sides, and I would get y equals 12 minus 5, which is 7. So remember, for our systems of equations, we need to solve, our answer is an ordered pair. It is an x value and a y value as our answer. It is not just one number. So I already knew that x was 5, and now I figured out that y was 7. And again, if we wanted to check our work, we could go back to our equation, and if I plug in my x and my y value, does this equation stay true? So if I plug in 5 for x and 7 for y, is 5 plus 7 12? And it is. So that means that this is my solution. And then when we write it as an ordered pair, remember, we're always going to write x first and then y. So this, our answer, our solution would be 5, 7. So those first three, we're already given the value of one of our variables, and we're just plugging it into the other equation to figure out what the other variable is. The next the next six are not as easy. They're not giving you specifically what x equals or y equals. So there will be some additional steps that take place. So if we look at number 4, remember the first step is that it's always an x equals or a y equals. So here I have that y equals 2x. So I already have the first step done. I have an equation set to y equals something. So then in my second equation, instead of writing y, I'm going to replace y with what it equals, which is 2x. So that means instead of writing this y here, I'm going to write 2x in its place and keep everything else the same. The only thing that changed was I replaced this y with 2x. And now I'm at an equation that has only x's in it, and I can simplify and solve for x. So if I combine my like terms first, 1x plus 2x would give me 3x equals 9. And then to get x by itself, we would divide both sides by 3, and I would get x equals 3. So we solved the equation and figured out what x is. Now remember, our answer is an ordered pair, so I need an x and a y answer. So I got the x answer. Now I'm going to plug 3 into either of these equations. It does not matter. You will end up with the same answer, and I can show you that here. If I plug in x to this equation, right, I'm going to replace x with what it equals, so that would be 3. 2 times 3 is 6. So that tells me that y equals 6. If I go to the other equation and plug it in, so x plus y equals 9, again, I know x equals 3. And then to solve for y, I would subtract 3 from both sides. So I again get y equals 6. So you do not have to do that every time. I'm just using that to show you that no matter which equation you plug in, you would get the same y value. So now I have that my answer is x is 3 and y is 6. And remember, we always write our answer as x then y. So my answer here would be 3, 6. All right, let's try one more together. So let's look at, let's look at two of them together. Let's look at number 6 first, and then we'll look at number 9. So number 6, remember the first step is to have an x equals or a y equals. I have x equals here. So it's telling me x equals 3y. So in my equation, I am replacing x with what it equals. So instead of writing x, I'm going to replace it with 3y. So now I have an equation only made of y values that I can then go in and solve for what y is going to equal. Well, if I combine my like terms, this one is a little different. If I combine my like terms, 3y minus 3y is 0, right? If I had 3 and I took 3 away. So on this side, I have nothing left. And on this side, I had 0. Well, since I have 0 on both sides, that means this equation is true and I have infinitely many solutions. And we've talked about that before. Remember, if I had maybe like 5 equals 0 and it wasn't true, that would mean I have no solutions. But since both sides equal 0, I have infinitely many solutions to that problem. All right, one more example together. If we look at number 9. So number 9 is also set up. It tells me that y equals negative 3x. So one of my equations is set to y equals. So then that means in this second equation, minus 2y equals negative 20. In this second equation, instead of writing y, and in just y, instead of writing y, I'm going to replace it with what it equals, which is negative 3x. And again, nothing else in my equation changed. The only thing I did was I took this y and I replaced it with what it equaled. So it equals negative 3x, so I put negative 3x in its place. So now, again, I only have an equation with x's in it, so then I can simplify this equation and figure out what x equals. So the first thing I'd want to do is multiply these two together. So negative 2 times negative 3x would give me positive 6x. So that means I have 4x plus 6x equals negative 20. So then if I combine my like terms, 4x and 6x would give me 10x equals negative 20. So then when I divide both sides by 10, negative 20 divided by 10 would give me negative 2. So I know for this system, my x value is negative 2. So now I'm going to go back. And again, I could use either equation to figure out what y is. This one is clearly easier. It has less pieces to it. So I would automatically use the first one because it's easier. It's also set equal to y. So whatever I get on this side is going to be my answer for y. So I know that x now is negative 2. So then if I multiply negative 3 times negative 2, I would get positive 6, which tells me that y equals 6. So then when I write my answer as an ordered pair, I always write x first. So I write my answer as negative 2, positive 6. So hopefully those 4 examples can help you figure out the last 5.